Alright, hey guys, being in, you know who I am. And today, I'm here to talk about some solutions to Oberon that I think would make Oberon a really great frame. I know DE is now starting to look at feedback for Oberon more, especially before the Prime release. And so they made a couple tweaks a couple days ago, and there's one pretty good one that I'd like to show you, as well as let me just give you some of my solutions to some of these abilities and how I think I could fix them to make, like, you know, Oberon a really solid frame. A couple days ago, Reckoning got a buff, and what it does now is the debuff is now based on the target's base armor instead of their current armor. So that means that basically I could cast Reckoning once or twice and the armor would be gone. And that also means it now stacks with corrosive projection. So all I really need now is, say, about 70-ish% armor reduction. And if I stack that with our corrosive projection, we get this effect. And armor's gone without having to use energy conversion on two different abilities. So that's pretty good. However, I used a lot of energy, like almost like a little over 200 energy there, which is not ideal. That's not very efficient at all. However, like I said, I can spam it and it'll actually like remove the armor instead of last time it just wouldn't. So anyway, there's that change. That is pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to go over the abilities in order and give you some of my solutions to how to make them really solid abilities. Because right now Oberon has massive energy problems, and on top of that, his abilities are significantly weaker than that of, say, other frames that could do all of his things but better. Alright, so Smite. Smite is actually in an okay spot right now. The problem with that is that, you know, Smite is, even though scaling damage, is resisted by armor. And, well, the good thing is Reckoning buff makes it so that it's sort of good now. It's okay. But I feel like it should, the damage shouldn't be like puncture. I feel like it should be finisher damage, so we won't have to even like bother with stripping armor in the first place if you're gonna have something that scales like that. So I feel like either that would be a good solution for Smite, or what we could have is have Smite strip armor instead of Reckoning, and then Reckoning could scale infinitely, and that way we'd actually be able to kill shit with Reckoning, because Reckoning does lower damage than Hallowed Ground and Smite. And it's kind of sad for an ultimate ability that with this much power strength costs over 150 energy, which is outrageous. That's completely outrageous for an ability that doesn't really do much. And on top of that, it's extremely inconsistent. Or at least the other parts of the ability are inconsistent as far as like the blind. But I'll get into more of that later. So, Hallowed Ground is okay right now. They got a little bit of an angle change, so it sort of doesn't go only like, it spreads out from side to side now evenly, which is okay. The only problem I have with this ability is that it does cost a little too much energy for my liking, because like this costs about what, 78 energy, but with Prime Flow that's okay. But if you're trying to combo that with other builds, like, say, Reckoning, it's going to absolutely eat through your energy immediately and burn through a really large amount of energy that you really shouldn't even, like, cost that much, because other frames can do that armor strip and with only 6 energy. So let me show you, for instance, like, let's show you Ash and Banshee to a lesser extent, even Hydroid now. Like, okay, so I have Seeking Shuriken on this build, and of course I have my power strength enough to where it will strip 100% of armor no matter if 1 or 2 Shurikens hit them. And since I have max efficiency on this build, it's only cost me 6 energy, which is a really good deal. 6 energy for an armor strip versus a little well over 200 on like a couple enemies, if you have range in your build, that is. That's just too high for like an energy or an armor strip. Like, there are better things to strip armor with, especially if they're going to cost you that much energy. They should do more. Now, on top of that, we have Renewal, which is the ability I have by far the most problems with right now because it's just not that great of an ability. It's so much worse than it was formerly. It's just kind of sad because Oberon was a pretty solid support for him, and he had the only healer in the game that had infinite range on his heal, and he had a bleed out slow. So even if he didn't get to them or the orbs didn't heal them in time, hey, at least I have a couple extra seconds to go pick them up. And even then, I could spam this, and so they won't bleed out, which makes it even better, so that no one has to spend any revives, which is amazing. However, now, it has this wave effect here that's affected by range. Now, my solution to this is, instead of having it affected by range, I think it should be affected by duration. And the reason why is because on a pure healing build for Oberon, you're going to want to have a lot of duration to mostly max out that bleed out slow on Renewal, which it kind of doesn't matter anymore because the range is not infinite. But you also want it for the heal over time. For some reason, that's inversely affected by duration. I don't know why, but that's just the way it is. So basically, the more duration you have, the faster it will heal somebody. And like the less duration you have, it'll heal them. It'll heal them like still like a similar amount. It will just heal them much slower, which doesn't make any sense. But that's whatever. So I feel like this should be affected by duration, or the inverse duration scaling should be removed. One of those two. Because with a build like this, you're sacrificing not only your efficiency but your range. So your Hallowed Ground is going to be super weak and not really go much of anywhere. Which is kind of bad because you need to cast these abilities. You want to get the full effects, you know, on top of Hallowed Ground, which is sort of this forced synergy that I'm not like. On top of that, the healing's pretty weak compared to Hydroid, which is, like I said, really kind of sad. Especially when Hydroid can do this. It's almost no comparison there. Even though Oberon, sure, he gives you armor, but like percentage heals are going to heal up higher health targets like a defense node or a Inaros or something like that much more effectively. Now sure, this would be like okay for squishy frames, but this is more about the armor bonus less than the healing. And I kind of didn't like how the support builds got gimped that way on Oberon. So like I said, okay, just change. I feel like making it affected by power duration would be really good. On top of that, let's think we can double its time. It spans out there, and yeah, let's make it like a double duration, something sort of like mag polarize actually. So duration, okay, so I don't have, let's see, let's take this build for example, and this build only has 183% duration, but it goes on for 9 seconds, and it starts at 11 meters. And I think that this is a really good system for abilities that are going to like span out like that in waves. And you can see it kind of just goes on and on and on and on. On top of that, it restores shields and does damage to health and armor, which is really good. So I feel like Oberon should sort of get the same treatment there as far as Renewal if DEs doesn't plan on like making it so that it has infinite range again. Though the bleed out time thing might not be as good as it once was without the infinite range. So there's that. And then there's Reckoning. Now Reckoning has a lot of inconsistent things going about it. So first off, even though it says it does this set amount of damage, it's still going to be less than Smite because Smite scales without armor. But even then, the puncture damage is resisted by shield a tiny bit, but not a whole lot. But it scales, and Hallowed Ground does damage over time, so it's not this total damage. It's going to be over the duration of 45 seconds, which is going to do a lot of damage. Both of those abilities way out DPS Reckoning. On top of that, the blind is something you can never truly build for because the person to be affected by the blind of Reckoning, you have to be like out of the range of Reckoning but still within the blind radius, which I don't know if that makes sense, but it's kind of like you need to be outside of this range, but inside of this range, and it's really weird. And I feel like that if Reckoning's not going to kill them, and it's not, trust me, it's not going to. It's not going to kill anybody above level 50. Then it should at least blind them, or in the very least make the health orbs drop at 100% rate if someone is killed by this. And odds are no one's going to get killed by this regardless. And I feel like this is the ability that should scale instead of Smite, in my opinion. As far as damage goes, I feel like Smite could strip armor and Reckoning could scale. And that would make up for the difference in this huge energy cost. And it would actually be sort of okay. But like I said, that's just my opinion on Oberon and his abilities. It's just, I feel like all of them are way too inefficient for what they actually do, and other frames do them better, and they can do sort of all this but like together. Like for instance, Nyx, let's take her for example. These three abilities, you know, Smite, Hallowed Ground, Reckoning, cause rad procs. Nyx's first ability, Mind controls the target, which causes him to fight the enemies. Psychic Bolts has guaranteed rad procs, which makes the enemies fight each other again. And Chaos, which basically forces a large AoE to make the enemies fight each other. So really the rad procs aren't really doing a whole lot here. And on top of that, it's going to be more efficient that way anyways. And you're not going to be losing out if you go negative power strength on Nyx. In fact, you're going to be actually really gaining a lot in that range. Because Nyx is really all about low range, low duration, and a little bit of efficiency, and that will be all good. As far as healing goes, like I said, Hydroid does that better now. Like it's like I said, it's sad for like a sort of semi-dedicated support frame to lose out to a frame with an augment that lets them heal up quite a bit. And so, even though the healing mod is sort of really a band-aid fix for Hydroid's sort of low survivability, it still makes up for a lot of Hydroid's downsides. And I think like that a support Hydroid build would actually be much better than a support Oberon build in his current state. Most Warframes require an augment, sure, but it costs far less energy than this, and you don't have to combine it with another ability for it to even take effect. So in reality, an armor strip costing over 200 energy is that's just not ideal. Like I said, not gonna even work. And there are like, you can strip armor with weapons, like for instance the Bratton Prime can strip armor. And other weapons like Pandero. So why even bother with this armor strip being on this ability when it honestly would be better spent on Smite, and then Smite has the scaling damage toward Reckoning. This way, you would actually be able to take advantage of the health orb percentage thing above level 50, and you might actually get some use out of health conversion, which gives Oberon a ton of armor. So honestly, let's talk about this passive here. So, allied pets receive health, armor, and shield buffs in addition to your pets receive instant revives once per mission. Now, my problem is that this is not going to be better than any of the linked health or shield mods that exist in the game. I mean, sure, it's passive, but it's not really doing you a whole lot. And on top of that, it only works on Kubros and Kavats. Now, if it worked on Sentinels, I might be okay with this passive. Now, what I feel like would be a better passive is to have like a passive rage, but the rage be like turn 80% of the damage taken instead of 40% into energy, which would then solve Oberon's real bad efficiency problem. And I think that would work out wonders. And if you really want to, maybe you could stack with the normal rage. Who knows? I mean, sure, you're taking a mod slot for it, might as well. But yeah. That's just my insight on it. Anyway, guys, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.